Welcome to my review of Edge of Tomorrow, directed by Liman, a film that follows an officer who unwillingly rewinds time each time he dies in the middle of a human-alien war. Alright, so I'm going to kick off this review by talking about the trailers for Edge of Tomorrow. To me, each time I saw one of the trailers, I never felt like I would ever be interested in the film. To me, it looked like everything else out there. It looked like every single generic action film that we've pretty much come to know. But given that this movie has received so many good reviews, I decided to check out the film for myself, and I gotta tell you, I'm so glad I did, because this movie it's just a hell of a lot of fun. And what I also love about this film is the premise. This is not the same old stuff that we've been seeing year after year. No, this is actually something that tries something a little different. Not entirely new, but something that you could at least say, yes, this is different. This is something that does diverge from what we have come to typically know of the summer. And one other thing I do need to say regarding the trailers is that the trailers kind of made the movie look a little darker, and it kind of implied that there was sort of a romance between Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt. There's some chemistry definitely there, but it's not to where I would call it a romance. It's not like that at all. And yes, there are some dark elements in the film, yet at the same time, this movie's really more of an action comedy than it is just your run-of-the-mill action film. As you've seen from the trailers and you've heard in my description, Tom Cruise plays a character who can essentially turn back time each time he dies. And each time he does this, it's actually pretty damn funny. And, you know, the way he dies, sometimes you'll see other characters get killed. And it's just kind of watching him kind of go through the motions, get frustrated. It's kind of like watching somebody play a video game and they keep on dying, and so they had to kind of restart over and over and over again. It's kind of like playing Dark Souls, if you know the game that I'm talking about. This movie is really a lot like a video game, and I'm not saying that as a bad thing, because it's actually a lot like the Stanley Parable with the atmosphere of Halo and Gears of War, which I would actually say is a pretty positive thing to say, because the Stanley Parable is quite brilliant if you've never played it. But as far as movies go, it's kind of a bit like Harry Potter and the Prison of Azkaban, Terminator 2, and last year's Pacific Rim. So if you're a fan of Pacific Rim, or you're a fan of any of those movies, in fact, then this is something that you should definitely give a shot, because I think you'll really like it, especially if you're a fan of time travel. Now, one thing I was kind of concerned before going to the film was the whole live, die, repeat thing, like it says on the poster, and I was concerned that maybe at some point that might become a little redundant. However, it never actually did. It always managed to feel refreshing. These scenes always managed to feel like they actually served a purpose. They were funny, or at least entertaining at some aspect. This film did a really good job at really handling all that. As for the performances, they're all quite good. Tom Cruise, he's really good in the film. I've always been a fan of Tom Cruise. I think he has a great screen presence. And Emily Blunt's also really good in the film as well. Their characters both had this very subtle chemistry that worked very well. Now, the only problem I have with Edge of Tomorrow is really with its ending. I just kind of wish that the film had done a better job at explaining the ending. And I know when films, or anything for that matter, tackles the subject matter of time travel, I know that things can get a little obscure, a little tricky, but I'm not entirely convinced that something such as this couldn't have been explained a little better. Overall, it's movies like Edge of Tomorrow that still give me faith in the summer blockbuster. I adore this film. I think it's excellent. So I'm going to give it a very low 4.5 out of 5. As always, I'm Colyn Kirkland, and thank you so much for watching.